All right. I want to make this video about marriage. The way that I see marriage now is a lot different after all the things that I've discovered or experiences that I've had and revelations that I've received and visions that I've had. Just different. All right. So one of the things that made this make a lot of sense. Well, let me put it this way: where it started at, realizing that when we leave this body, when we leave this vessel, or when we leave Earth, we become a different entity. We become our original selves. We become, as Jesus says, spirit gives birth to spirit. We become the spirit that existed before incarnation. We go back to that personality or that identity, I guess you could say. And that identity um, comes to the realization that it's been many different roles. It's been male, it's been female, it's been black, it's been white, it's lived here, it's lived there. It will often recognize that its father in this life was its brother in its last life, or husband in this life, brother, or husband in last life, brother in this life. And it realizes that the roles that we play on earth are just like roles, just like an actor who begins to act, takes on a character, takes on that character's whole identity to the point where he has that character's thoughts, and then when it's over, he returns back to his actual self. It's the exact same way. So them recognizing that gave them a freedom. It gave them a liberty because they no longer had to live by the same confinements and restrictions that society had once placed on, or that they bought into. They bought into society's corporate dream because there is a corporate dream. There is um, I guess you would call it like a corporate mindset, corporate mentality. So in one country or in one section of a country or in one section of that section of the country, because I mean it goes from country, state, city to small parts of the city to streets in the city to blocks on the city where people think in a group think. It goes from this group to a bigger group to a bigger group to a bigger group. And those things that people buy into are like a dream because they're like unwritten rules. You can't do this if you live here. So in certain places, a man marrying more than one woman is frowned upon. It's ridiculous. In another place, that's a society, and it makes total perfect sense. So it depends on where you live at and which corporate dream you want to buy into. But when you um, escape the illusion, when you leave the movie, when you realize that you're watching a movie, that the person that's about to go into that door where the monster is behind the door, you're not actually in there with them. When you remember that, and then you calm down and remember that you're watching something, you're not actually in it. You stop participating in this illusion. When you get out of that, you can break away from society's dream, right? So when you break away from society's dream, then you start to live usually outside the box, and people don't accept it and they criticize it. But what they're doing isn't actually working, and that's the other point. The corporate dream doesn't actually work. It's not successful. And a lot of people are sad, suffering, unhappy, all these different things because they're trying to live the corporate dream that doesn't work. They're trying to make it work because their neighbors are doing the exact same thing. And if they didn't do what their neighbors were doing, they would stand out. So instead of them doing what would actually make them happy, they're trying to be happy by doing what everyone else does. And it leads to them being unhappy. So the corporate dream doesn't actually work, but no one's woke up or, broke out of the illusion enough to actually try something different. Well, actually, it is happening. It's happening on a mass scale, to be honest. But for the most part, people aren't haven't awoke to that point where they're like, if this isn't working, maybe there's something else. People are trying to be wealthy with jobs. That doesn't work. That's not what a job was created for. People are trying to find love and happiness in marriage, and that's not what marriage was created for. It's just that's how they sell it to us because marriage is a business. There is business around marriage. Not only is there business around marriage, but there's a point in having people chase certain things in a certain way because it produces a certain state in them that allows them to be easily manipulated. People in stress are easily manipulated, and the majority of the world is in stress because they hate their job from Monday to Friday. They don't know how to manage their finances. So for the majority of their life, they're unhappy because of their money. They haven't realized how they work themselves, so they can't change things that are making their relationships dysfunctional, so they don't have functional relationships. It's like over and over, and they don't understand health truly, so they lose their health over and over and over again. They go through these same cycles that keep them stressed and easily manipulated, because when someone is stressed, it's the response of life preservation. That's what stress is. Stress happens when you're trying to preserve your life, when you're in fear that your life or your way of life is dying. So you stay in fear, and it makes you stupid, because when you're in that state, life preservation doesn't think about future, it thinks about right now so that there can be a future. When you're in a state of homeostasis, I think it is, or at peace, basically, that's where there is no there's no like future projection of fear or death or anything like that. There's no worry for your life. And in that state, everything works correctly. Your immune system works perfectly. This usually happens when you're in love. You get great ideas. Your immune system works perfectly. You have all the energy in the world. You're very positive and loving, and you see the bright side on a lot of things. But when you're in stress, it's the exact opposite. Your immune system stops. The blood flow to your brain stops. It starts to go more to your limbs so that you can be active, fight or flight response. That makes you stupid, and then you're easily manipulated, just like a scared animal. So it's like all that stuff, all that's like that corporate dream. I guess this video isn't about marriage. I'll make the next video about marriage. I guess I'll call this one the corporate dream. That stuff takes you out of your actual alignment. So let me put it like this: and stress is the opposite of ease. That's what causes dis-ease. Prolonged periods of stress break the body down because it's in a state that's supposed to be very temporary. It's a state that gets you from out of the lion's teeth, or out of this person trying to shoot you, or out of this situation very quickly, and then back to peace again. But the way that this corporate dream is set up, it keeps us in that state of stress so that we break down faster than we're supposed to break down, and it keeps us stressed. Now, each and every one of us within us has a certain dream. It's self-perpetuate. That's what life does. It perpetuates itself. So each and every one of us has this dream, but because we're trying to live this corporate dream, where we take our actual dream and we sacrifice it so that we can do what we, for example, there's a certain amount of money you have to make in America to be considered successful. There's a certain way you have to look, a certain way you dress, a certain car you would drive if you were successful. But a lot of people who would want to do certain, they would want to take up certain fields that would um, not allow them the financial or the monetary compensation so that they would be quote unquote successful. So they leave that dream, that desire, the thing that's actually in them to do, because they have to survive. In other words, they have to live up to the standards of everyone else, and as opposed to doing the thing that is inert in them to do, the thing that they actually want to do, the thing that would make them feel successful, even though they don't their life around them doesn't look like the corporate dream. And instead of them chasing that, they sacrifice that. They lose their life. That's what that is. When you try to save your fleshly life, this personality that was created on this earth, you lose your actual life, the thing that you were put on here on earth to do, the thing that you actually want to do. That's the actual life. You sacrifice that to live the corporate dream, then you lose your life. But if you sacrifice the corporate dream to actually live those desires, then you find your life. That's the principle that Christ was talking about. If any man desires to follow me, then he has to first sacrifice his life. If you try to save that life, then you'll lose the actual life. All right, so that's the video on the corporate dream and how it causes that stress. And check this out. I'll try to say this in the last 30 seconds. I guess I have to make another video because I don't want it to go to 10 minutes. I don't know if my channel is allowing that right now. So I'll make a video about Hollywood because it produces this corporate dream, or it's part of the corporate dream. Hollywood is the wood that witches would use in their wands. So you use Hollywood to cast a spell on people. So I'll talk about that in a video in the future. All right. Next video, I'll try to talk about marriage. All right. Thanks for watching.